Hi everybody, Dana Litwin here again, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. This week on Tuesday Tips, something a little bit different. We're going to share what's on my bookshelf. I've had a couple of fun questions through LinkedIn and email of what books are here besides cookbooks and gardening and goofy fandom Xena Buffy stuff from back in the day. Well, specifically for people in nonprofit, for women professionals, for leaders of volunteers, if you fall into any of those categories, here are my top 7 book recommendations. Hopefully some of them are familiar to you, some of them might not be, but I recommend all these books, and I will put the links to easily acquire them in the video description down below. Brand new, this came out late last year. My dear friend Amira Barger, The Price of Nice. Hopefully you've heard of this book. She's been on a great book tour. She's gotten a lot of fantastic media coverage about this, and she did a presentation. If you were at the Alive Summit in Sacramento in March, you got to sit in on her session. You're a lucky, lucky soul because it was fantastic. Some of the main points of this book is that we are too nice and polite, and that can hide some pretty bad systemic injustices, harms, and impacts that we want to be aware of, our own biases and others, and get the nerve to stand up to things that are not going the way they should. So from nice to nerve is the main point of Amira Barger's book. Highly recommend it. The next book on my list also came out fairly recently, last few years. Chari Smith, I'm going to make sure it doesn't shine too much here so you can see it. So Nonprofit Program Evaluation Made Easy. It's the promise of the premise. It's exactly how it sounds. It's a very easy way to think about nonprofit program evaluation. I think this is a very, very valuable book of knowledge and a skill to have for leaders of volunteers. We all come to this career from sometimes wonky sideways places and other careers. So if you're not already well-versed or experienced in program evaluation, this is a great, easy start. I think this book also is great for not only your understanding, but being able to educate up and manage up. There's also not necessarily specifically in this book, but it's a pretty easy logical leap to go from this kind of program evaluation to then adding in what volunteer activity impacts are on your organization's mission. So Chari Smith, I'll put the link for this and other books below. Also somewhat new, last couple of years, this is an anthology. It is edited by Doug Bolton, Beth Steinhorn, Jerome Tennille, and Craig Young, and it's Transforming Disruption to Impact. This was written because and during the early couple of years, first couple of years of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still ongoing. We are still having impacts. People are still getting long COVID and being disabled for the rest of their lives or for months or years at a time. So we still have some chronic illness linked to COVID, and COVID itself is of course still circulating around in all its variants. But this does, sometimes bring up the impacts of COVID, but I think this works in really any challenging situation, which I think we're in all the time in the nonprofit world, at least in the USA. And I love this book because it not only has sections from leaders of volunteers, which a lot of other books are anthologies, and I've done some chapters for them over the years. This also has funders' perspective. So funders that specifically invest in strategic volunteer engagement, talk about what they look for, what they like to support. So I think this is an essential read. Again, not too long of a read, pretty easy to get through in an afternoon or weekend for any nonprofit working person, but especially for leaders of volunteers. Okay, next on the list, classic, not usually mentioned in nonprofit book lists or recommendations, but Anything by Chip and Dan Heath. These guys are the grandfathers of marketing strategies, I think, of all time. This is Switch. This is about change management, which again, we often have to go through whether we like it or not. This is a great way to understand how to do change management a little more smoothly, but really anything by the Heath brothers about marketing, sticky messages. I've done webinars and workshops about that. That comes from their ideas and from their principles of marketing. So very important for us to know for recruitment, retention, just aligning with our marketing and PR departments and our organizations, anything by Chip and Dan Heath. Next on the list. A classic for me, I think, and hopefully you've heard of this before, Barry Altland has his 3 H's, the head, the heart, and the hands of volunteers. And this came out, I think more than 10 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And it's got ideas of kind of a holistic approach to volunteerism, and Barry comes at it not just from his corporate training background, which is helpful, but also as a long-term volunteer himself with organizations, that really gives a perspective on volunteer engagement that was ahead of its time as it came out, and now more and more organizations and people and nonprofits, leaders of volunteers, are figuring out that yes, we kind of need this holistic approach as the basis. So again, quick, easy read, highly recommend, easy to find on Barry's site. My good friend Nicole R. Smith, she's got a couple fun books out. I really like this 101 Affirmations for Volunteer Administrators. It's a great kind of book to write stuff down, keep yourself going, keep your own morale up. And she also has Game On, which is a fun inspirational book for really any profession, but especially in nonprofits. And last but certainly never least, Meridian Smith, The Volunteer Shelf Life. If you don't have this in your collection, please add it. Go to all the links below. I'm not making any money. These are just people I know and my friends, and these are books that I read over and over again to remind myself of great ideas. This is evergreen. This came out a while ago. We recently did an advanced kind of cohort symposium with several of us in the nonprofit volunteer world, going through chapter by chapter and evaluating and updating and kind of adding our own ideas, and Meridian herself was in this. So this is a classic. It's evergreen advice and information. I hope that you enjoy this and the other books I've mentioned. And that's part of what's on my bookshelf that is accessible and easy to find for leaders of volunteers. I hope you enjoy these Tuesday tips. Next week and the week after, we're going to have some fantastic tips and priceless advice from Toby Johnson herself, Redhead Power Unite. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time with more tips from Toby and other great guests coming up soon. Take care.